Este es Aaron con NP740U3L otro video para ti hoy. I have before me a Samsung notebook spin, I think. Is that what this dealio is? Yeah, notebook 7 spin. You should be able to tell right away if you're a computer technician what's wrong with this guy, especially if you look real close. So I've got another video for you clowns. Well, it's got a cracked screen. I don't want to go over the story behind that. It's a customer's computer, but it's none of my business. But allegedly, people got into a physical fight, and I don't want to... I really don't care about the rest, but, you know, they were younger. I'm not judging. They're from my group. They look similar to me. But, you know, every generation gets worse and more violent. So this was used in a fight. That's a good use for a Samsung. Who needs computers? Who needs the internet? Who needs peace? Just use current technology for a fracas. So obviously it has a cracked screen. Also, you should be able to notice the backlight. The backlight still does work. If you look here now, there's going to be reflection from my lighting in my office. But if you look close enough, right here, there is the backlight works. And then so we'll turn this guy off. I just wanted to show you that it actually works. Now what I do whenever I receive a damaged computer, I don't judge the customer. It's none of my business. Some customers talk to me and tell me the whole story. I don't try to judge because it's really none of my business. Humans aren't perfect. I know I'm not. But what I do is obviously you take a gander at it, since it's got a cracked screen. If it has a cracked screen like this, it doesn't mean that the computer is not usable. Chances are that the client or customer did not power off the computer. If you get a computer and it's powered on and it's got a cracked screen, whether it's an all-in-one or a laptop, what I do is I hook it up. If you notice here, it has an HDMI port. A lot of the newer, this is about a year old, a lot of the newer technology, they no longer have VGA connectors, but this has an HDMI port. So what you could do is you could hook this up to a monitor that has an HDMI port on it. That way what you do is you hook it up, and HDMI is pretty smart. It'll start displaying, or sometimes there's function keys to get the display to display on the big screen. So what you're going to do is you're going to hook it up to an external monitor, and then you can gracefully shut it down, or you can troubleshoot. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I do. So when I got it, I hooked it up, and then because what I did was I tried to power it off, the power button's right here, but I noticed it didn't do anything. And when I did connect it to an external monitor, Windows 10 was trying to restart. It restarted, and then it installed some Windows 10 updates. So to properly shut down gracefully a computer, hook it up to an external monitor if you've got a cracked screen or a screen that doesn't work. Alright, so let's move on. I'm going to power this guy off. I took the hard drive out because I didn't want to fuck the operating system anymore. You know what I mean by that. I didn't want to damage the operating system and the file system, so I just took the hard drive out. I already took this guy apart. Okay, so it's still on. So what I want to do is I want to make sure, if you can tell the backlight here, here, and here, and that it's on. So I'm going to make sure this time that it really powers off, because you don't want to work on electronic devices with the power on. That's never a good thing. So it looks like this time it finally powered off. Now you may be wondering, Aaron, why are you such a fucking idiot and a moron? You're the world's biggest narcissist, but you didn't pull the battery. Well, let's flip this guy over. It's a nice computer, Samsung. It's got a metal outside case. It's actually an exact model. Is a model NP740U3L Modelo. I thought that was cerveza, más cervezas. Beer and computers don't mix. Well, look, it should be pretty obvious. There's no battery compartment. the battery is not separate, so that tells you that the battery is underneath this cover. So that's why I couldn't pull the battery. Otherwise I would have shut down the laptop and then pulled out the battery, and then, you know, obviously unhook the AC adapter and then held the power button for a few seconds to dissipate any possible electrostatic discharge. So this laptop, so I'm making this video showing you how to take the monitor, well, the LCD. Now, oh, it turned on again because I accidentally hit the goddamn power button. See, some of these newer laptops, I really don't kind of like the design, because what they do is they place the battery underneath the one cover, so you can't just take out the battery. Alright, as a technician, to me it's kind of a pain in the ass. I'm going to show you how to take this screen off. Now, maybe I'll save it for when I take it off. This is a bigger time use to replace this than you think it is. I mean, it's easy to take off the cover, but I'll explain everything as I go along. So you just need a Phillips screwdriver. You might need one of these types if you work on Androids. Then you might get these for free when you get screen replacements ordered and shipped to you. You might need kind of a I would not use metal when you take apart laptop covers because they're easy to scratch. I never use metal anymore. Even if it takes me longer, I prefer plastic. You might also need these picks. And this one I got these for free. They break real easy, but they're free, so there's a pick, and here's another pick. You notice the picks are a little bit different. These are considered like a guitar pick. I think they even call them a guitar pick, or they're referred to as a guitar pick. But they're used to take apart computers, the plastic covers and stuff. So this one broke earlier because it's real thin and flimsy, but whatever. I got them for free. That's about, and then gloves. The reason why I say this is because I worked on LCD screens, and the ones that are cracked, let's give you an example. You may think that it's not dangerous. Well, it's not going to kill you. Every time, this stupid thing does not want to power off. This to me is a design nightmare. They should have separated the battery instead of putting the battery underneath here. As a repair technician, this is fucking stupid to me. But you see all that glass? Well, if you've ever worked on LCD screens where the glass is busted, guess what? If you do not know what you're doing, you're going to end up cutting yourself, because those little pieces of glass, if you start touching the screen, you might even just touch the corners. You think you're careful, all of a sudden you're bleeding, and that's because you've got pieces of glass stuck in you. Now, I've actually had glass stick in me. Actually, I was an idiot and I didn't put gloves on because I thought, oh, they're, you know, when you first look at the screen, it looks like all the glass is together and there's just some obvious cracks. No, some of the glass is starting to fall out. So this, I don't know if you can see it on screen. This right there is actually because a little, see the little red spot right there on my thumb? That is from a piece of glass that stuck in my skin, and I had to pull it out. It did hurt a little bit, but so now I'm going to do the smart thing. It doesn't matter. You can use any kind of gloves. I just had these lying around. But winter gloves or thin leather gloves, whatever. Gloves that'll protect you. Now, these gloves are not that expensive, so it's possible if I fucked around with the glass that it might even go through this rubber. But for this demonstration, I'm going to put gloves on because just to show you, and I'm not a surgeon, I'm not a doctor, but I don't feel like getting cut up. Because trust me, when you work with electronics, you get cut up, and I get sick and tired of getting cut. And if you notice, this cable is loose, but the backlight still works. Well, I researched this, and the back cover, inside the back cover, there's a 30-pin port. So this obviously came loose, and there's no display. Even if there was display, most of it would be missing because there's a lot of cracks. But the backlight still works, so that's a good sign. And I know the rest of the computer is good because I hooked it up to an external monitor. And I booted, and I even booted it up again just to make sure. And it booted Windows 10 just fine. But I removed the hard drive because I don't want to mess the file system anymore. Because every time you turn on, turning on and off, even if the laptop turns on by itself, well, you don't want to continue to shut down and shut off a Windows, well, any computer file system. So you're going to have to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 screws, and then you have to take off the entire back cover in order to get this piece, in order to remove it from the rest of the computer. I did not Google that. I didn't have to research that. I just figured it out on my own. However, I've had a problem trying to find a replacement screen. I thought I could find one. I took a deposit. When it comes to ordering parts for customers, I usually require a deposit. I don't charge them my labor until I finish the labor, but I do usually require a deposit, and I try not to have them pay me too much, because you know how that can piss some people off. You tell them, well, just leave $100, and then it ends up that the parts were only 50 or 60, and I always try to think outside of a box and try to think what my customers are having to go through. But it looks like probably I'm going to have to, well, I will refund the $100 deposit. I found a replacement screen, but the problem is that this type of monitor, that's another problem when you try to research and you try to find replacement parts, especially LCD screens, is that depends on how old they are. This computer supposedly is only a year old. The customer said they bought it a year ago, and I could look that up by looking up the warranty. So it's probably only a year or two old computer, but when I looked online, there were very few parts out there. Well, there were very few LCDs. There's one for $250. It would be the entire piece, which is what you want because it's an easier process. However, I doubt the customer is going to want to pay $250 for a replacement screen. I could tell them that, and if they want to go ahead and pay $250, but I really doubt it. They were willing to pay more shipping to get it, shipped quicker, but that's only what, and depends on, that's only what, 10, 20 more dollars. That's different compared to $250. I did find replacement LCDs. There's a difference between the LCD and the rest of the screen. The LCD is just the liquid crystal display, although this technically is a LED display. So I don't think it's technically LCD, but it's, with computer language, is pretty much, the same crap. The LED or the LCD is just the screen that the computer displays on. However, a lot of these, well, some of these laptop screens are similar to Androids and iPhones and even like tablet computers. What they do is they fuse on top of the LCD glass. I think at the manufacturer they put some kind of rubber gluish type substance. They put the LCD screen in here. I'll show you. So we're almost finished, and I'll try to describe the LCD when I pull it out. Yeah, it keeps trying to power on, and so you understand how if I didn't pull the hard drive, the computer would keep trying to boot up Windows 10, and eventually that's gonna possibly corrupt the file system. And now the fucker won't even shut off. I don't know. I'm gonna have to pull the battery. I'm gonna have to loosen the battery. Okay, so we're gonna pull it apart, and this is where I think plastic, because if you use metal screws, you're gonna, you know, scratch it all up. So you could try one of these types, and you might want to just fan it out like that, and then what you do is you try to find a corner somewhere where you can. Now another thing you want to be aware of is a lot of these laptops have micro SD card slot, which this one does. You see right there? Now that doesn't have an SD card in it. However, if there's an SD card still in the slot and you try to take apart the laptop, well, guess what? You can possibly crack the case and you can bust the SD card. So you need to become aware before you start pulling the two pieces apart that there isn't anything else plugged in, even like a USB. A lot of people nowadays use USB mice, and it'll have a USB, the little USB that acts as the wireless. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know why it won't power off. Let me try it again. I don't want to have to open it up. It just won't power off now. Alright, well, okay, so let's try to take this apart. We removed all, what was it, 10 screws or whatnot. So you might want to start at a corner, or maybe even wherever it might be. There we go. So you want to get it started. So you notice how I just pressed in, and then what you do is just slide and keep sliding, and it's normal for it to make a noise when the plastic separates. And then you just keep sliding, and then you do it on all sides before you start ripping apart the laptop. And this is, to me, the easiest. It can be a pain in the ass, but and then just keep sliding. That's why I use plastic tools, even if they break, because I've tried way back in the day when I first started working on computers. I used to scratch up people's computers because I was stupid and I was using metal tools. Now I never use metal. I always use plastic. And then, so just get it, and then just, damn it. So this is on a corner, so you want to slide it. Come on. There we go. I'm going to have to go around this corner. There we go, we got it. And then just keep sliding all the way. And even though there's ports, just make sure you unscrewed all the screws. As long as you took out all the screws, you're not going to break anything. And then there we go, we got all of it. Now that it's loose, a lot of times they come off real easy. That's why I like to use these kind of tools, or even a pick. You know what I mean? It makes it a lot easier, rather than trying to use a screwdriver, flathead. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, since this won't power off, and I don't normally work on a computer with power, but I have no choice, is I'm going to disconnect the power right here, or I'm going to disconnect the battery, and it's right here. Now I'm going to hit the power button to diffuse any possible electrostatic discharge. And where is the power button? I think it was on this side, but I don't even see the button. Oh, is that right there? No. Give me a few seconds. We could line it up. Alright, so this goes like this, and then the power button was, oh, it's on this side. However, I don't really see the power button. Anyways, I won't worry about it. Alright, so we got the battery disconnected. As you can see, I obviously took the hard drive out for a reason. Now, don't lose your screws. These screws were all marked with red except for two, but it doesn't matter. I don't know why they marked them. One has blue. The other one was, I think it might be this one, was clear. It didn't have markings. I think all the rest are marked with red paint. Oh, I see two blue. But when I went back to put it back together, it didn't matter which screws went in, so I don't know what's up with that. They all look the same size, so you want to become aware of the screws. So when you put the laptop back together, you know, if the screws are different sized or they're longer, you know, that could be a problem. There are 4 screws to loosen this bezel. So it's a bezel. This is actually an easier laptop I've worked on. Some of these bezels are a fucking pain in the ass to the point where I don't even fuck with them. Before that, I'm going to disconnect there's 2 cables that connect to the LCD, and you just gently pull on these black pieces of tape, and then it comes right off. And here's another one, and just gently pull it out, and then that comes right off. And that's it. The Wi-Fi cables aren't there. Sometimes Wi-Fi, these are actually antenna. This is the gray, this is the black. These are actually antennas. Sometimes the antennas run up here, and they are actually underneath here on each side of the screen, but this laptop, they didn't design it that way, so that's a good thing. So that saves me a little bit of a headache. And it's just 2 cables. There's 2 screws on each side for the bezel. A Phillips screwdriver will work. You have to loosen both, so 2 on each side. And then we'll be able to pull the screen, and we'll be able to separate it from the rest of the computer, and I will show you what I'm talking about. Not all not all laptop screens are. Now these are different sized. They're smaller, so you just become aware of that. And they're all colored blue. You can always label screws. You can put tape on them if you want. Whatever it makes it easiest. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of time. I've been doing this for many years, so a lot of times I don't even label screws, but it depends on some computer manufacturers use different type screws, or they'll be different sizes. Those are the types that I hate, because then you have to go back and try to remember what size screw you used. It just really depends on. These are only 2 different sizes, so those are easy to remember. That's it. So we got the screws loosed end, and now these bezels pull up. So you just pull up like this away from the motherboard and pull up, because it makes it easier for the screen to come off. Now you can flip it, and you should be able to lift it. Let's see, I did it once before. Yeah, now it comes apart. So that's, you know, that's why I figured out to lift up, and then it just came apart. So we've got the motherboard separated from the rest of the computer, and we'll just set it aside. These are similar to Macs, kind of. They're not as heavy, not as well made, but they're kind of, yeah, they got the battery underneath the one cover, and I don't like that type of, you know, configuration, but whatever. So we'll just set this aside right there. Oops, look at that. They're magnetic. So this has an aluminum cover that's similar to the Macs, and it is magnetic. Now here's the screen. So at first looks, you're like, oh well, okay, I'll just order a replacement LCD, and I'll just order this part. No. You know why? Because this was fused at a factory, and I think what they did was the LCD is underneath the glass, and you have the back cover, and what they do is they put like a rubber type of glue underneath, or maybe even along the side, and they take they apply heat. They take like a heat gun, and they heat it up, and then it sticks together, and then that makes it permanent. Well, yes, you can't, like with Androids and even these types of screens, you can take a heat gun and you heat up the rubber compound, and then you take a suction cup and then you take a suction cup like this, and once you apply enough heat, you put the suction cup on the glass and then start pulling, and then it'll separate the glass from the LCD. However, this screen is totally cracked, and after further review, after further investigation, you've got the plastic. This separates, but I think at the factory they punched it down. And you notice here, you can separate this plastic. This will come off, but the problem is that, so you're going to have these wires here that hook up to the motherboard, and they're going to run inside here. So that's I don't see how this comes apart unless you rotate, unless somehow you rotate this and then these, but I don't think so. I think this is one piece that covers this bar, and I could be wrong, but I don't think it might not even come apart, number one. And if I rotate the bezels and push it, I don't see anywhere how you can take that apart. I just, unless you take the back cover off, and then maybe there's screws that hold this together. I don't know, man. But the biggest problem is this. Once you take this plastic here, and as you can see, the ribbon cable came loose, is that you would have to fuse the glass on top. So I found LCD screens which is underneath the glass. Anything underneath the glass is going to be called like an LCD or a LED or whatever. But it's not all LCDs are, not all screens are made the same. Some screens you can take apart and you can separate the glass. And then you can, the glass part would come off, and then you could take out the LCD and then just replace the LCD. This, no. That, no. Because I know, because on this corner you can tell that it was fused. So what they did was they placed the glass on top, heated it up. I'm assuming they put some kind of rubber type glue underneath the glass, then pressed down, and then they applied heat to make it permanent. So I found one screen that probably fit the same laptop, but they want $250 for the entire screen, which is what I prefer because it's easy. All you have to do is hook these two cables to the motherboard, and then you just screw down the two screws on each side for the bezel, and then you're done. When it comes, now these types, I don't even know if you can do it. You would have to sit here and heat up the rubber to try to separate the glass, although it's already cracking. So chances are it's just going to just fly everywhere, and it'll turn into a nightmare. Like if you can see, there's a piece missing there, right by my thumb. Can you, I don't know if you can tell on camera. Yeah, right there. You see that right there? You see that like little pyramid looking, or that there's a missing piece of glass that fell out already. Underneath that glass is where the LCD is at, and there's, there's like maybe a little cover there. So this, and I did not find any glass pieces. I googled, I searched. I was lucky I found some LCDs, and I found one complete screen, but they want fucking $250. So what I'm going to have to probably do is tell the customer the bad news. What I could do for them if they wanted me is, unless if they don't pay the $250, then what I could do is I could take apart this rest of the laptop screen, which I would separate the two pieces of plastic right there and pull this all the way off and do it on this side. Chances are I may not be able to get it back. It might not snap right. I don't know. It may or may not. Then I'm thinking that the LCD might still be good. I don't know for a fact, because the screen is so cracked. that you can't really see much of anything except for in certain areas you can see the backlight, but you can't see the display, the pixels, because this cable is loose. But it's possible that the LCD underneath survived, and what you could do is you just carefully take off the glass. I don't know, man. With the heat gun, what you could do is use the little plunger, and if you heat it up long enough, you could get large pieces of glass. But there's so many small cracks that I don't know. I'd be lucky if I could get like a piece like this sized, you know, or the size of my thumb. Otherwise, you're sitting there. It could take a long time to pull off all this glass, and I would definitely have to wear gloves, obviously. And then underneath the glass will be the LCD, and then all I do once I take this plastic piece off, I think that's just plastic, or it might be aluminum. No, I think this is plastic, this is aluminum. Yeah, then I would rehook the ribbon cable, because I'm pretty sure there's a 30-pin connector that's underneath. I'm thinking, yeah, actually, it's down here. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. And then I'm almost done with this video. Right here. This is the replacement LCD screen, which stands for liquid crystal display, but I think it's technically these are LED. Right here, if you look at this image, and right here, if you look at this image, and I'll try to make it as large as possible. Well, maybe not. I want to view image. Yeah, you see right there? Now this is the LCD screen on the back of it, which I think would be back here. It would be behind here, down here. And then the front is the LCD where you can see everything. And then there's a backlight. There's probably down below here somewhere, there's going to be a little circuit board for the backlight. That works, so I don't think there's a problem with the backlight. So you got this connector right here where this ribbon cable right there. Here, I will zoom back out. As you can see, I googled this. I went on eBay. I went on Amazon. I had to try to find out the exact screen. That's another thing you need to become aware of when you do replace LCD screens, is you want to make sure you get the exact same part, because if you don't, I've had it happen once, and I learned from that, is you'll order the wrong part, and then you have to return the part, and then your customer gets pissed off because you have to wait. They have to wait another week or however long it takes. And then, so make sure when you order LCD screens that you find out what type it is. As you can see on screen, this is a touch screen. Some of these Notebook 7s, well, Samsung Notebook 7 Spins come with without touchscreens. Some come with touchscreens. This is a LED. I believe this is a LED type screen. I think it's down here. Yeah, right here. 13. Although also the size. Some of these laptops come with a 15.6-inch screen. This is a 13.3. Also the resolution. They might be the same exact size screen, and it might actually fit, but it might be a lower resolution or a different resolution. This is a LED touch screen. So this is actually LED technology, which is a little bit different than LCD. And alright, so I need to run. So this is going to be quite the project. So what the best thing I could do at this point is, if they pay $250 for, now the ad claimed that it was a new screen from a parted out computer. Well, that's not entirely true, because they parted it out. So that tells you right there that the computer's already used, if somebody pulled off the screen to salvage it. So no, it's not a new screen, but I don't know how they got away with selling it that way, but whatever. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If the screen works, it would be a much easier install. I already went over that. I doubt they're going to pay the $250, but the very least I could take the time to fucking pull the glass. Now the problem with that is, and then rehook up the ribbon cable. The problem with that is there's no protection. There's absolutely no protection to the LCD. You know? And so I don't know. But another thing I could tell them, they might know it, they might not. You'd be surprised. If you're not a repair technician, you don't know everything. Even back in the day, 10, 20 years ago, as long as a laptop had an external monitor connection, like a blue VGA, although those are fading, this has a HDMI, and I already tested it out. This HDMI port works just fine. What they could do is they could still use the computer and hook it up to an external monitor with an HDMI port. Now, obviously, they couldn't use it as a laptop unless it was okay that they used it without the glass. I could not find a glass to fuse it on top, and quite frankly, I've done that a few times. That's a fucking pain in the ass. Even on Androids, it's a bitch. The process that you have to use a heat gun and fuse the glass down on top of the LCD. I prefer getting the entire part with everything except for the connectors, and then you just screw it down. But like I said before, not all laptop screens are made the same. The glass, it will come apart separately. Even if the glass is broke, it's a separate portion of the screen. This is not, it's fused. But I could tell them, look, you can still hook it up. You can still use it. You can use it as a desktop computer. You know what I'm saying? All right, so let's put it back together. I think flipping it, and then let's see. I gotta take this piece off to get to it. And we'll put that aside. So it's just reverse engineer. But, since I'm making the video, I may as well go through the process. I need to put it back together anyways. Alright, so I think probably laying it flat would be the easiest, I think. The bezels. And then they're just going to line up. And there's just 2 screws on each side. But yeah, this was a bitch. This is a bitch. And then there's the small screws. I can probably, yeah, it's starting to bug me. The rubber gloves. But yeah, you notice how I did touch the LCD screen quite a bit? And oh yeah, those little pieces of glass, they'll fall. They'll fall while you have it in your hand. And that's never a good thing. Getting pieces of glass stuck in your hand, that's not a fun time. Unless you're, what's that called when people that not a necrophiliac. I don't want to talk about what a necrophiliac is, but if you don't know what a necrophiliac is, Google it. But there's some kind of a scientific term for people that like physical abuse. Oh, sadomasochist. I think it's sadomasochism. People that are into sadomasochism, they enjoy physical abuse. I don't. Because trust me, I've gotten into fights before. Believe it or not, I'm a pacifist nowadays, but I've been into a couple of boxing matches, and it depends. Your adrenaline gets in the way. Your adrenaline takes over, and you don't really feel the punches until after the fact, and you're either bleeding or your eye fucking closed up, or you're in immense pain, or you get kicked, or I used to play soccer. During the game, yeah, I would get kicked in the shins, and then for maybe it's the adrenaline, then after the game I was in immense pain because I just got kicked in the shins. I played all kinds of sports. Sadomasochism is not one of the sports I partook in. So just snap down these connectors, pretty easy, one on each side. Now this, yeah, I like this laptop as a technician, except for the, so, well, it's a paradox. Trying to fuse a piece of glass onto an LCD screen, no thank you. No thank you. I've tried that a couple of times, no thank you. I've tried it on some Androids, no thank you. Now, don't forget the battery. So I got to plug in the battery again, but I might, but I'm going to put it back together. And that's that. And then obviously I would put the hard drive back in, and that slides right there. It's got a cover. But I'm not going to do that right now. And nope, it didn't try to power on this time. Alright, so let's put, we can lay this flat. And the bezel, all the bezel does is allow the, it's a tablet. It's a 2-in-1. It's got a touchscreen, but what it does is it folds back. Like, see? It folds back into a tablet, and I think you can buy a stylus. I don't know if these came with a stylus, but I think you can get a, if it doesn't come with the stylus, I think you can buy one and you can just use the stylus and, you know, tap the screen. So it's actually a hybrid. It's a notebook computer, but it converts into a tablet. So those are kind of cool, but the screens are designed the types I don't like. The types that require fused glass. No, thank you. No, thank you. That's more like a Android type screen. And most Androids I've seen, I don't think they separate. The glass is always fused on top of the LED or the LCD or the OLED. Do I have this wrong? Yes, I do. We can just lay this flat to make it easier. And then boom, it just, boom. And then you might want to just press down a little bit just to get it tight before you tighten the screws. And another thing I check for is it's all tight now. Is I want to make sure there's no cracks, nothing cracks, because some of these covers, this is, I think that's not aluminum. That's more like some kind of a rubber, I think. And sometimes these can crack as you take them apart, so you want to be careful. And I always make sure that I return a computer to my customer the exact same way it was, because I would be pissed off if I had a repair technician work on my computer and then I noticed that there was a massive crack on the cover or on the case or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'd be pissed off. Now we'll just tighten the screws and I'll be out of here. I'll be out of your hair. And I gotta run, man. I'm transitioning away from Namecheap, my web host, and I have my own virtual private server now, although I'm paying $5 a month for it. Be careful what you wish for. But so far, I'm pretty happy with it. It's pretty quick. It's way more responsive than Namecheap hosting. And I have root access so that I can not have to put up with fucking mod security problems. Some of these web hosts just, they're too paranoid. I know you don't want to get hacked. I know GoDaddy is the worst, but that's because a lot of their web hosting is not managed. That you have to pay extra for that. And their VPSs, a lot of them are not managed. You have to pay extra for managed hosting and managed VPSs. Well, I used to use GoDaddy, and my one website got hacked like 3 times. And also with GoDaddy, it was terrible performance. I would have to literally re-provision. Well, that was my VPS. My VPS, I had to re-provision like 2 times, because after about 6 months, it would just start slowing to a crawl. And so one thing you can do is you can re-provision the server, but then I don't know why with GoDaddy, after 6 months, sure enough, it would run like shit. But what you would do is you would just complete a full backup of your entire file system and then re-provision it and then restore the backup. But having to do that every 6 months is just not my cup of tea. But a lot of these web hosters now, they lock everything down, even plugins. The problems I'm having now with Namecheap web hosting is with a mod security. I think it's more than just mod security. They tried to blame it on mod security, which is an open source type of a plugin that you can use on a web server. Well, I can't even make changes to parts of my website. And then I was locked out. I was banned. I was getting IP banned. And they perform maintenance. And then the next day, I would try to log into my website and I would get locked out. I was getting IP banned because there was some kind of timeouts. And it was, I was like, I can't deal with this. I'm losing money. You know what I'm saying? So I looked up, and there's some cheap VPSs. VPS prices have declined a bit, but so far I'm happy with the $5 VPS. And you know, I've built my own web servers before, so with Linux, so I know pretty much how to, you know, resolve most issues. I don't get managed. Now I'd have to. Now it depends on, but I think most likely they're not gonna, you know, spend too much time on me when I'm only paying, you know, $60 a year. But I've managed my own VPS before, and it's well worth it because you get full access. But you have to know what you're doing. You have to know, you know, how to. Really, what you need to know is to troubleshoot problems, and you need to be able to understand a little bit of PHP, and you need to know command line so you can SSH into the VPS. One more screw and I'm out of here. So I wanted to make this video showing you how to replace the screen, but instead I think this is probably the only video out there. I couldn't find any videos about this exact model of laptop. But at least I can show you how to take off the screen without, you know, further destroying it, and without, you know, cutting your hands up. And how to replace it. There we go. So that is the screen removal for a Samsung Modelo Modelo NP740U3L. Adios.